I ended up going on Road Fools 1. It was the winter of '98, I believe. I was living with Chris Rye at the time. I had helped out. I'd been involved with props. I did cold calling sales for a minute. I'd been on a lot of, we used to go to Christmas classics and all that. And I know they needed an issue and there wasn't a lot going on. So they just planned a road trip. And I think I had just left Standard and gotten on DK that summer. And I got invited to go with a bunch of my friends on a road trip.
I'm not even sure how I wound up on Road Fools. Keep in mind it was the 90s, so the guys that were on the trip were really motivated to be on trips and pushing riding and traveling and trying to experience as much as possible.
Props was filming a bunch and they thought, well, we'll just do some kind of BMX version of, you know, MTV Road Rules. So we just got in a rig and drove about. That was it, really.
I don't remember knowing much about it or even what it was, but we knew we were going to Chicago to get in a bus and drive around.
For me, I was a trail rider, racer, and you know, dabbled in street. And then, you know, I'm on this trip with all these guys that have a freestyle background.
I had just moved to Austin in November, and I had just gotten a call about that Props was gonna do a road trip in January because there wasn't that much going on and they had an issue that was coming up, and it was just something that they wanted to try. And they told me all the people that were going to go. They were all my good friends, so I was on board.
Starting for this trip, we had no clue what was going to happen. I mean, it was cool, and I was stoked because it was all dudes that I was A, friends with, B, I looked up to, you know, like, how are you going to do a trip with fucking Joe Rich and Taj Mihelich and not be like, oh, dude, I'm stoked. And we knew we were all going to push each other, but like, of course, none of us had any idea it was going to turn into what it did.
The cast and crew, we were all friends. So, and it wasn't like we were setting out to, you know, change the game or anything. We just really wanted to get in a vehicle and get out on the road and start shredding and ride as much as possible.
Being on the road with your friends has always been, you know, one of my favorite parts of riding, you know, if not my favorite part of riding.
The one thing looking back on it is I can't believe how much we drove. Like, you know, nowadays, like, no one would put up with 10 hours trips with no riding, you know, and we did that day after day and didn't even think twice about it.
I think all that time hanging out together really brought us together and brought out just the stories and the intimacy of like getting to know people on a real level.
Up until that point, whether it had been the issues of the video magazine or videos that were out, you know, you didn't really get that much of a personal side to all the riders. And I think that although the riding was really, really amazing in it, and a lot of people pushed themselves to maybe some levels they never had previously, but even still, with all the amazing stuff that got done, it was, you know, that's only part of how all those people ride.
I remember being on it, somewhere in the middle of it, and definitely thinking, this is amazing, and like, I can't wait for people to see the riding that's happening and this crew of guys, and like, you could tell that it was something special when you were in the middle of it.
For me, and I think everyone would agree, like when we got to Denver, I remember Joe jumping out of the truck and doing a backwards rail. And it just seemed like that was like, hello, like, it's serious now.
Joe just says, fuck it, I'm gonna go backwards.
Before that, I think it was just a bunch of dudes jumping in a camper for a winter trip. And then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, all right, I guess we're gonna do this, like, for real.
Definitely the guys on the trip were pushing street riding in a direction that, you know, no one really knew what could happen. A lot of times tricks would go down and the reactions were so heavy because, you know, it's not like Joe Rich said, hey, I'm gonna backwards grind this rail. He just kind of went and did it, you know, and I think that made everyone on the trip kind of step their game up and push harder and just try and maintain with the crew. You know, everybody brought something to the table in their own way, you know. I mean, I'm the first to admit I was definitely over my head on the riding side of things. You know, compared to, you know, Taj, Joe, Freimuth, Sandy, you know, and Jimmy just going balls out at everything.
Man overboard.
Everybody kind of brought their flavor to the table And then in street riding in particular was getting pushed because you had guys like Joe who were, you know, very technical, Taj and Jimmy who were like fearless, and you combine all that and the boundaries were getting pushed.
This trip didn't necessarily change my perspective. It just, finally there was an outlet to this is what myself and my friends, and I know other people and their friends did. You know, like back in the day we were bummed because it was like, to get your sponsors, to get your whatever, you had to do this in this contest and that contest or whatever, which is great for those contest cats, which I'm not dissing because I was one of those dudes too. But what I'm saying is the majority of us just like to go out, ride with their friends, go to the bars at night, party, do whatever, and it was finally stoked that this actually turned into something. You know, like this blossomed as a fucking part of an outlet of BMX. It's not just who got first or second at what contest. As who went out, shredded their ass off, had a good time, and had drinks and slapped high fives at the end of the night and started all over again, hungover as shit. So, like, it was cool just to see, like, that whole thing develop, you know? Like, it was cool that that turned into a part of our sport.
For me, it was really exciting to see people riding that well, and it just kind of makes you tap into how much you want to push yourself as well.
My heart was always in transitions and skate parks, but I loved a good handrail.
Got my costumes wet.
And on that trip, it was just off the charts. Every handrail that had been done was done better, and then a bunch that had never been done were done bigger and faster and all that stuff.
No one was worried about, you know, strictly the way things were filmed in, or like, there wasn't a code for filming or a code for how your bike looked or how, you know, baggy your pants were, tight. It was just like, out in the open, like, you know, anything can happen here, so let's film it, or anything can happen here, like ride anytime.
It influenced my riding in the sense that I wanted to try and, you know, throw my shit into the pot and see how it went. And I remember, you know, learning to manual rails and stuff like that. I was looking at a square rail and Taj was telling me, oh, it's, you know, no different than a ledge, and you manual down ledges all the time, so why not? And it was simple as that. Next try, got it. And then from then on, I had some confidence. And that's what was happening on the whole trip. The crew was supporting each other.
I don't know, it's funny. When I think back to that video, I just sort of have this sort of memory of being part of something really cool and just knowing it was something special. But in all honesty, I had a whole lot of concussions since then, and I don't remember a lot of the details. But I do remember it when I watch it and I think about it, you know, it kind of flashes back. But I don't know, I mean, I knew at the time I could see like stuff happening that I had never seen happen on a bike, or I knew had never been filmed. Sort of my base memory of it all is just that it was something really special to be a part of, and you could just tell that it was something kind of magical at the time.
Hold on, I'll be right back a second. Before backflips took over my sport of dirt jumping, I used to place pretty damn well and do pretty good and blah, blah, whatever. And then, like, that shit started going on, and I went from getting first and second or third every damn contest to, oh, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, blah, blah, whatever. And this came out, and then I started getting new sponsors and new whatever just because of a damn bike video. Oh, what's this street dude doing? Why is it going down 20-something stair handrails? Why is this going on? Which, that's nothing to nowadays, you know, but I'm just saying, like, I guess at that point in time, it was a new thing, seeing somebody jump over a 21 stair to flat type of thing, or something like that, which I ain't doing shit now compared to the modern day kids. I'm sure as hell know Dennis Anderson. But what I'm saying is, like, in 96, 97, 98, that fucking meant something.
And it was kind of one of those things where the stuff that was happening was almost intimidating. Like, I don't have that in my bag. Like, I don't have just things I can pull out that are like gonna change BMX just in a clip. The way it affected a lot of people seeing it, it affected me also, just because it was amazing. Like, you got to see the people, got to know them, see them interact and all that. So it really felt like a full video.
It was the first of its kind, in my opinion, that was actually that structured and kind of had a day-to-day push to get clips and you know, kind of stack them up and then, you know, arrange them in an order that was really fun to watch and really made you want to get out on the road, you know. And that's why I think it resonates with people. I think people love that video because it proved that, you know, you can just get out there and get a crew together and hit as many spots as possible and film it and make it a quality project.
A lot of those dudes, besides being like bros of mine or whatever, like Joe and Todd, you know, Dave, those dudes, besides being badasses, I looked up to them. And it's so funny to be like a part of this crew. Well, they'll pay me a compliment back, and I appreciate it because of the fact it's like, I think it's a little woven thing where it's like, Dave, I could never do your technical fucking over toothpick on off an 8-foot quarter to a whatever wall. What in the hell are you doing? How it, whatever. And then he says to me, what, hang tooth down a fucking 14-stair rail? You know, it's like, to me, everybody has their own art. And to me, mine's way easier than theirs, and theirs is vice versa. Or whatever, cool. But I'm just saying, I think it's just respecting each other's different riding styles. I think it's cool that, like, everyone on that trip had a different color of paint, you know what I mean? Like, so that's what made it so cool. It was like, you had a bunch of artists, but everybody had different colors in the easel, you know what I mean?
It was a looking glass into so many, you know, this diverse group of people's personalities that you could come away with feeling something, because all of us, you know, if you grew up riding in the 90s and were into and were wanted to be a part of the scene, you were used to taking road trips, you were used to traveling for days with your friends, and all the just crazy shit that happened, and just even stupid shit that you laugh about. It's, you know, that's what road trips are. And I think that it was something that a lot of people could relate to, and I think that side of it took whether people were professional or known riders out of it. And it was just that people saw it as like, man, here's a bunch of dudes that are just cruising around, and I can relate to that, and they rode well too.
I mean, honestly, I think Road Fools 1 kind of changed everything a little bit. At that time, Joe and Taj were coming out with T1. There was big changes coming, and riding-wise, like, without a doubt, I mean, backwards rails happened, Joe did second stagers, Jimmy just gapped everything that he saw. And I mean, riding-wise, it was pushed instantly, like, no doubt. And video-wise too, I mean, no one had even tried to like include personality and interaction between pros, and that's the stuff I always thought that's how you got to know people, was not seeing them interviewed or talk about themselves or any of that stuff, but the way they talked to other people and what was actually going on in the bus. And I mean, even being there and then watching it, that was interesting to me. And I feel like that was one of the first times kids actually, like, you could see who each one of us was, you know, how we talk, how we act. That hadn't really happened before. I mean, you saw us all act like goofballs in Baco videos and whatnot, but I mean, it was kind of like the freshest thing in BMX for sure, kind of across the board. I mean, riding, like I said, the interaction, the personality, all of it. So yeah, I think it was huge. And I think people even see that more now than when it happened, actually.
I guess maybe, you know, I felt that maybe more riders came up and said hi to me than usual or something like that. I mean, I felt like I got to meet a lot of people based on Road Fools 1. Just I
felt like they knew you more.
Yeah, or some. I mean, maybe they felt that they knew me, or I don't really know. But I had done quite a bit of traveling afterwards. That was right after going to England and stuff, and you know, people were just so psyched on it. And, you know, for me, that just made me feel good about it all. I mean, I couldn't believe it, because it's almost just, you know, you just have a good time with your friends, and in the end, you know, that's what it is. That's what it was to me. But, you know, to hear different reactions from these people in such a good way, I was just like, whoa.
It does still mean something, because the fact that, like, it really had a lot to do with, my past and my future, where I'm at now, whatever, which I ain't say I'm anywhere. I'm just this weirdo dude that was too lazy and ADHD to go to college, but I got to survive due to doing this kind of shit. B, like, you gotta push yourself, whether it be in going fast and going gnar, or being really mentally prepared to do something heavy tech, and like, you gotta get this, that, and that dialed. It's just like, we all have a different aspect that you gotta like figure in. So it's, as much as I suck at math, it's all mathematics, I guess.
But it definitely influenced myself and the whole generation of bike riding since then, you know?
Yeah.
We didn't realise it was going to be such a monumental video at the time. We were just on a road trip, hanging out, and then, you know, the aftermath of it, it's just been pretty amazing. I can't believe it's been 15 years, you know?
Yeah.
I was really happy on how it all came out. Even when it was going on, I never really thought about what was going to transpire afterwards.
It really set the stone for a lot of our future, actually. Not to be weird, but that's kind of like what it did.
After the trip, things changed dramatically because pretty much all the top riders in the industry took control of it and started their own brands. And I was lucky enough to be a part of T1 and something I took, you know, really seriously. I have a tattoo, you know, that's how much it was important to me. And it was a special time because we were creating the industry that we know today.
I don't know, it kind of felt like, you know, we'd had this video that really changed riding, and now it was time for us to like kind of help change the industry a little bit. And those two things went hand in hand, and there was all this momentum behind Joe and I and T1, and it totally changed my life because I went from being able to make a living off just bike riding, and then at the same time I started this whole new job of running a bike company and you know, like helping kind of make BMX a little bit more the way I wanted it to be, not only through riding but also through the business side of it.
After the vid, I had actually moved to Austin for a little bit because, you know, we had such a great time on the trip that it was like, you know, only made sense to go visit Taj and Joe down there for a winter. That was amazing. It's just a great city. It still is to this day. Everyone goes there in the winter. It's the prime spot. And I learned a lot, you know. I think I was even vegetarian for a little while. You know, that didn't last, but...
It's really weird, you know, just with like social media and stuff, like anything that's road fools that's posted now or something, like kids are just commenting like quotes of the video that you said. You didn't think anything at the time. It was just like, you know, you're on a road trip and everyone's got their in-jokes and their lingo and stuff, and that like went beyond just being in a van, you know, like we were just talking shit and doing whatever the hell we wanted in a van. Didn't think it would go any further than that, you know, maybe make a wee video, but then it just went, you know.
Quotes from the trip were classic, and I'd always get stoked, you know, when you'd see other riders and they'd throw them out at you and just try and rile you up and shit, and you know, it proved that it was entertainment, you know, and I'm glad that it was. I'm glad that people enjoyed it that much.
It's cool to be a part of a video like that where it's an actual video and people watched it over and over and over, and you know, the younger guys at my office at Odyssey like have it memorized and can recite all those quotes, and they pull them out on me when I forget them, but it's funny.
Jimmy the man, not Jimmy Levan. Jimmy the man. It's hard for me to think that any sound bites of something I could be involved in would become as, you know, just something that people would remember. But I mean, growing up, there was so few videos out, you know, Head First, Ride On, you know, there was just so many things. Aggro Man, I mean, those are all the Eddie Roman videos, but I mean, I can remember, you know, I could recite those videos word for word. So I understand it just because, you know, it was something that had to do with personalities that I looked up to, and it was such small bits of what you were given to know about those people that became what you thought of them, as like some stupid fucking quotes, and you're just like, but that's all you know about somebody, but it makes you feel closer to them somehow. So to actually be a part of something that could have sound bites like that for a different generation, just, it seems crazy.
At no point ever did I ever think that it would make such an impact, like across the board, and people bring it up to me today, and just the response I see when people talk about any of it, to be honest, it kind of blows me away, because even when it happened, I knew it was a big deal, but I don't know, people still talk about it, and I'm always surprised, because by far it was not my best work by any means. I mean, I was just glad to be along and put in my 2 cents, but the response is off the charts.
It was really cool to be a part of that video and like sort of spark off all the subsequent road fools and see that turn into its own separate, you know, entity. And it's been cool to watch through the years like what other groups of people have done with that trip and how they've handled it. And I don't know, I'm grateful to have been on it, and it was just a really fun, great time.
Looking back on it now, it's overwhelming to think that, you know, I was on this trip with these guys that, and collectively we made this video that changed so much in BMX. The problem with, you know, for me is the history in BMX hasn't been covered that well, you know, and rarely is. So, you know, just by doing this project, I'm psyched for, you know, kind of newer riders to get a window back into time and see where a lot of the stuff that they're doing now kind of came from. I know that's pretty obvious to say, you know, it's the history of BMX or whatever, but it was in particular this time in the 90s, I think, were critical because, you know, the guts had fallen out of BMX, and, you know, we were doing everything on a shoestring budget, but we were doing it for the love. Nobody was doing it to get paid. Nobody was doing it for fame. We did it, you know, purely out of the passion of BMX and riding. And to me, that was such a special era in BMX. And, you know, unfortunately now things have changed so much. I feel like it's lost that a bit. But, you know, hopefully kind of going back and showing the history, maybe we will open some eyes, you know. I hope so.
For me, I felt that it was something that when I look back on, you know, was a huge part of that time for me, and it gave me a lot of motivation and confidence for, you know, the years to come with what I wanted to do myself, just based on, you know, watching my friends and being motivated by them. It helped me a lot. But, you know, I mean, as a rapper or whatever, it's just, you know, it's just one of those, it was just 2 great weeks of my life, and I feel lucky to have been a part of it, and that so many people took to it the way they did, because all those guys killed it, and it's nice to see that other people could somehow get something out of just a great time that we had.
When I look back at that trip, I'm stoked as hell, like, because it's like so many dudes that were cool as shit, you know, like a lot of us really bonded, like, oh shit, you know, we still like keep in touch, you know, however damn many years later. We didn't create bread, we didn't do anything like that, but I think that Ryan Marco doing this video kind of like opened the realm of like just being a rider, contest or no, you can make a job off of fucking doing gnarly shit, and that's about it.
To be part of it, and when my name comes up, when that whole crew's listed, I'm proud as shit. And actually some of it, I'm just glad I had a first row seat to see it, to be honest.
I don't remember being born, I don't remember how it felt. I never knew the deal or the way it was dealt.